Stand by your beds, men. This time for a quick late May update. We've kind of jolted from winter to late spring, early summer within the space of about 9 days or something. I was in a fleece 2.5 weeks ago, but there you go. Anyhow, I'm now wearing a sort of lizard camo pseudo battle dress, which actually from the, as far as I can tell from the emblem there, this originates from a Hong Kong electrical company, but go figure. The reason being that one of my recent finds has been this, All Bull, the National Servicemen by B.S. Johnson. Now that name kind of made me double take. Some jokes indeed do write themselves. It's not that B. Johnson, probably be relieved to learn, but there are books with his name on it. Tempting as it is to cast a critic's eye over fucking 92 virgins or whatever that thing is. Others have got there before me, so I'd probably be only repeating the less than complimentary opinions on that one. But anyway, B.S. Johnson is someone else entirely, but he's not an author I really know. But he put this together, I think this is 1973. And he's compiled the memoirs or the memories of various British national servicemen, the period from 1945 to 1963. I've only got as far as the intro to this. Johnson wrote the intro. Don't get the feeling he's particularly a fan of national service. From what little I've read, he sort of argues that the supposed benefits as far as participants kind of training and so on could equally have been done in civilian life. So but I've not got very far into it, so we'll see how this one pans out. I mean, it seems an unenviable kind of thing to have to go through from my sort of perspective, but relatives who went through it, some spoke of it as like many things, people respond to these things in different ways, but it sort of has, I suppose, triggered off a chain of thought in me, and the various sort of forms of literature and entertainment and so on spin off from that. For instance, I did have a binge fairly recently. I think the episodes are still up on YouTube. There was the comedy series I dimly remembered from when I was a kid, but never seriously watched it back then. But I did have a proper look at it, which is the comedy series Get Some In, which features that kind of theme it had with it. Get some in! If you know it, you know it. A sort of parade ground kind of tune as its signature theme, but it featured a very young pre-Citizen Smith Robert Lindsay. There was various familiar faces in it. There's the guy, he's in some of those Lindsay Anderson films. He's like professionally malnourished looking guy. Brian Pettifer, I think his name might be. Sorry, I'm riffing here. I'll have to check later. Various other, but it kind of it depicts the frustrations of life with these RAF. I was about to say abductees, RAF junior recruits, or the national service period. I think it's set in the 50s. So Robert Lindsay, he appears as this teddy boy sort of character, and of course has to get all that shaved off by the military barber types. But it depicts it as a fairly frustrating experience, which doesn't deliver on the adventure and so on that it promises. And also, I mean, the sergeant major or type of character in it is the classic sort of barrack room bully sort of bloke. He's kind of like Battery Sergeant Major William, or is it Regimental Sergeant? Yeah. Windsor Davis in that Ain't Half Hot Mum. He's like that, but with a lot less charm or humour about him. He's basically a bit of an arsehole, and a lot of the comedy revolves around them getting the better of him. Sadly, I don't believe Get Some In was ever novelised. I mean, say something in the notes if I'm wrong. I don't believe it was. I would love to see there's certain things I'd love to see novelisations of that just didn't happen, which brings me on, touching on It Ain't Half Hot Mum, which, for all the kind of, they couldn't show that now, well, it is still viewable on, I forget which of the channels it's on, but if you click through the channels, you'll get to it on a Friday or Saturday night eventually. It's one of those things, I mean, the sort of common perception of it is that it's this sort of terrible relic of a less enlightened time and unwatchable now? Not quite. I think a lot of people my age do remember it fondly. I remember it fondly in certain ways. I mean, viewing it now, there are elements to it that are obviously a bit awkward. But I do tend to think it's about the intent to some extent. I don't think the intent of that comedy is especially mean. I think it's kind of, the comedy is aimed in many directions. Focus of the humour quite often is the British Army kind of power base. So on that front, I think someone said of it once, it's not the worst offender. And it's, there's other things of that period. I stumbled over this thing, Curry and Chips, a little while ago, and I couldn't get through it. It's just kind of, there were names in it that I thought you should have known better than this. This actually is this rather awkward relic of a time that certain aspects of culture don't stand up to scrutiny. But I don't want to go off too far into this cultural sort of area. It can get so tedious. But anyway, what I was getting to in a very sort of roundabout way was I'd love to have seen what a novelist would have made of It Ain't Half Hot Mum. I know there's a Dad's Army novel. I don't think there's one for It Ain't Half Hot Mum. I do think that there is one of those kind of kids' annuals of It Ain't Half Hot Mum. It might have only happened 1 year during its broadcast run, but I have seen listed on eBay and so on this It Ain't Half Hot Mum annual, and I'm tempted. But the clutter in here. If I'd gone through national service, I might have had the discipline. But anyway, but there you go. This It Ain't Half Hot Mum annual. I'm kind of, wow, what happens in that? And some of the listings show a few pages, and the index it apparently features a piece entitled "The British in India," and I'd love to see what they've done with that. That's one for another day. That's one for the wants list. But anyway, you horrible little men, I did do 5 terms as a compulsory cadet, so you can thank me for my service in the comments. Put respect in all caps, all that sort of thing. That's what I'm after. Other than that, well, I don't have it on me. I left my dad reading it. I did also pick up a copy of The Young Lions by Irwin Shaw. I'm aware there's a film of it. I think the film dates from the 50s. I think Marlon Brando is in it, and possibly a young Maximilian Schell as well. I've heard good things about the film, but still not seen it. But anyway, I'll have to get to that another day. Moving away from the rather militaristic theme of things. And the other thing, I may have read this as a kid. I can't quite remember. I know, we've all seen the film probably, but a long time since I've seen the novel of this, but I did stumble over it in a second-hand place in West London. Close Encounters, with credited to Steven Spielberg. I'm not sure, did he actually novelise his own? Or is that just, I don't know, maybe. I'm not too sure. But I've got a little way in. It's successfully replicates that slightly. I mean, I know there's all right, spoiler alert, they're actually, I think the idea is that they're actually quite benign aliens, but the sort of weirdness, before contact is really made, or the pre-contact stuff, is quite creepy. He does sort of replicate the odd sort of atmosphere of that in this quite well, and also the odd business of these like secretive little organisations that are beavering away in the background monitoring this stuff. It's all quite interesting really. But there's this thing that you see it quite often said, that science fiction of a few decades ago, it had such high hopes for us. Look at the landscape now, the kind of optimism implicit in certain things of a few years back. I mean, the idea now, I think one of the first things that occurred to me when I picked this up and started to read it, is the presumptuousness that, assuming there are these kind of super intelligent, benign, technologically advanced aliens out there, they wouldn't touch us with a shitty stick right now, would they? Do you know what I mean? They'd take one look and just hold their noses and fuck off to another galaxy, and who could blame them? That's, if they are this benign, otherwise if the alternative is like in Peter Jackson's bad taste that the aliens are just these galactic scumbags who want to just turn us into fast food. Yeah, they might give us a look, and maybe we deserve it right now. But yeah, it just really brought back to me that thing of science fiction used to have such high hopes. Yeah, it does seem quite presumptuous now that they'd think we're fucking worth it. But there you go. That's my take on everything, anything, this, that, and the other. Or maybe I'll feel better tomorrow. I don't know. But for the meantime, at least it's kind of sunny and warm again. I hope everyone's doing all right, and we will hopefully catch up in another vid soon. Take care.